You ever wonder why some companies just seem to ride the waves of change so easily, while others, well, they get totally swamped by the first big storm? Okay, let's get into it, because the answer, a lot of the time, isn't just about the company itself, but about the massive, complicated world that it's floating in.
I mean, that's the million-dollar question in business, isn't it? Is it just a better product? Smarter people? Pure dumb luck? Well, it's usually a little more complex than that. See, the real secret is in understanding the entire ocean a business has to sail on.
I want you to think of every business leader as the captain of a ship. Their whole strategy isn't just about having a strong, sturdy vessel. Nope. It's about being a master navigator, someone who understands the currents, can predict the weather, and knows how to chart a course through a world that's always changing. That's the journey we're on today. So this ocean we keep talking about, let's give it its proper name, the business environment. It's this huge collection of powerful, dynamic forces that every single company, from a tiny little startup to a global giant, has to figure out how to navigate if it wants to survive, let alone succeed. A good navigator always starts by looking out at the horizon, right? At all the things they have absolutely no control over. In business, that's what we call mapping the outside world. These are the powerful tides and currents that can either push you straight to your destination or drag you way off course. So here it is, our core definition. The external environment is basically everything outside the company's walls that can mess with its performance. And the two most important words there are positively or negatively. See, an unexpected tailwind is just as important to understand as a looming hurricane.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because we can break down those outside forces. We've got economic situations, what's happening in society and culture, politics and laws, and of course, technology. Think of them like the major weather patterns of the business world. A shift in the economy is like the tide changing. A new piece of tech is like a sudden storm appearing out of nowhere. And cultural trends, well, those are the deep, powerful currents that are slowly but surely shaping where everything is headed.
And speaking of those economic tides, there's a really important difference we need to get straight. Economic growth, that's just about making more stuff. It's pure quantity. But economic development, that's about quality. It's about actually improving people's lives, thinking about sustainability, real meaningful progress. A smart captain knows that difference by heart. Now, this right here is a perfect example of one of those cultural currents. This chart shows the Philippines measured on a framework called Hofstade's dimensions. Just look at that power distance score, 94. That's incredibly high. So what does that actually mean for a business? It means that culturally, there's a huge amount of respect for authority. As a manager, you'd probably find a more direct, top-down leadership style is not only more effective, but it's also more expected and respected. That's totally different from a culture with a low score, where you might be on a first-name basis with your CEO. See? Understanding this isn't just about being polite, it's about leading effectively. All right, so you scan the horizon, you've checked the weather, now it's time to look inward. A good navigator has to know their own ship, inside and out. Its strengths, its weaknesses, what it can and can't handle. This is the part of the world you can actually control. Right, so the internal environment is just the other side of the coin. These are all the things inside the company that are going to affect its journey. We're talking about your crew, your engine, your cargo, basically everything you have direct influence over. So let's do a quick inventory of what's actually on the ship. We're talking about your financial resources, how much fuel is in the tank, your human resources, how skilled is your crew. You've got your R&D, your production lines, and of course, the actual products and services you're carrying. A weak link in any one of these could put the whole voyage at risk. Okay, so you understand the ocean and you know your ship. Now what? Well, now you need the tools to actually chart the course. These are the practical methods managers use to take all that information and turn it into a real winning strategy.
The most basic fundamental tool is called environmental scanning, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. This is the navigator who's constantly on the lookout. They've got their spyglass out, they're checking the barometer, they're gathering data on every little thing happening around them. It's not a one-time thing. It's a constant process of just paying attention.
So once you have all that data, all that information, you need a way to make sense of it all. And that, my friends, is where the SWOT analysis comes in. It is, without a doubt, the most essential compass for any business navigator. It helps you find your bearings by laying out all the forces at play in one simple picture. And here's the genius of it. It's so elegant. all those things you learned about your own ship, your internal environment, those become your strengths and weaknesses. And all the things you learned about the ocean, the external environment, those become your opportunities and threats. Boom. Suddenly you've got a complete strategic picture on a single chart.
Another fantastic tool in the kit is benchmarking. Think of this one as the navigator's telescope. You use it to look at the other successful ships out there on the ocean. What are they doing right? How are their sails trimmed to catch the wind so perfectly? By seeing what they do best, you can spot the gaps in your own performance and, well, start making your own ship even better.
So this all leads us to the final and maybe the most important lesson of all. The business ocean is never, ever still. The winds are always shifting, the currents are always changing. The only way to succeed in the long run is to be ready and willing to adapt.
And look, we're not just talking about changing your marketing campaign or updating a product. The truly great navigators, the ones who last for decades, are willing to rebuild the ship itself. They get that a vessel built for calm coastal waters is going to get torn apart in the open Atlantic, so they actually change their organization's structure to match the seas they're sailing in.
Here is a perfect real-world example of this. In the Philippines, SM started out as just a humble little shoe store. But as the economic and social tides of the country changed, they didn't just sell more shoes. No, they fundamentally changed their form. They rebuilt their simple retail ship into a massive divisional organization with arms in real estate, banking, and retail. They evolved into the supermall giant they are today because they rebuilt their ship for a brand new ocean. It's just a masterful example of adaptation.
And as you can see, there's not just one way to build a ship. A business can organize itself in all these different ways. You can have a traditional, functional organization. That's kind of like a classic galleon with separate departments for sales, cannons, and steering. Or maybe for a modern project, you need a virtual organization, which is more like a nimble fleet of small, specialized boats, all connected by radio. The point is, the right design depends entirely on the environment you're in.
So that leaves us with one last thing to think about as we head back to port. In today's really turbulent business ocean, with all these forces swirling around us, which tide do you think is the most critical one for a captain to be watching right now? Is it the lightning storm of new technology, the deep, powerful current of culture, or the constantly shifting tides of the economy? It's definitely something to chew on.